Hello and welcome back to Dare Me to Prosper. This is episode 8. My personal apologies for this episode getting out so late in the week. I don't know if you guys had snow, but we had snow all week. My kids were out of school pretty much all week. And so it's really difficult to attempt to record a podcast with 3 children and a grown man at home. So here we are. And speaking of snow, I wanted to do today's episode on seasons, specifically how to honor the season that you're in, knowing when to push, knowing when to pause, and knowing how to work with the natural energy that you are in and not against it. Before we get started, though, I just want to say if you have not rated the podcast, I would so appreciate you giving the podcast a 5-star review if you're enjoying it. It is just a baby podcast, and so those reviews mean absolutely so much, and they really help me just get visibility and just get feedback from you guys. So I would love if you would take just a minute to do that. So I don't know where you guys live. I live in South Carolina where we do not get snow very often. And we didn't get much. We got maybe an inch. But it's been good because we've kind of been able to kind of slow down, kind of rest, which is what we typically want to do in January anyway. If you're anything like me, January just feels so blah. The sun is not sunning. It's freezing outside. It's very hard to find energy or motivation to do anything. You really just want to curl up on the couch with a blanket and watch Netflix or read a book and drink some tea, drink some coffee. It's really a time of rest very naturally. And nature often shows us these patterns in itself, right? I mean, look at the animals in the winter. They're hibernating, they're underground, they're resting. You're not seeing them. That is the natural way of things in the winter. It is a season of rest. And then spring comes and you start to see things blooming and, the energy is picking back up. And then summer, everything's full blown. All the animals, all the bugs, all the plants, everybody is thriving in the summer. Fall, we start to see slow down again and then back into winter, right? It's a cycle. And so in each season, we have a time where the energy is revving up and we're shining and we're getting things done and we're doing things. And then we have seasons for rest. For us as humans, however, we live in a world where we are expected to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, all year round. There's really no natural rhythm for rest. Even our bodies as women, right, give us seasons and cycles. Like during our cycle, you have your luteal and your menstrual phase, which you really your energy is low. You need more nourishment. You need more rest. You're supposed to slow down. It's more of a reflective period. And then during ovulation and follicular parts of your cycle, you have more energy and more creativity. And you're meant to, have more energy to communicate with people or to pursue creative passions. It's just the way we were made. However, again, because we do not live in a world that reflects those energies and those seasons, we have to work really hard to do that work ourselves. We have to work to pay attention to the cues that our body or our mind or our intuition is giving us and know when it's time to work, when it's time to rest, when it's time to heal, and so on. The healthiest version of yourself can only exist when you are honoring every phase of that natural cycle, when you are taking time to heal, when you're taking time to grow, when you're taking time to rest, when you're taking time to reflect and have gratitude. You're not supposed to be in any one season 24/7. You can't be in work mode 24/7. You will burn out, as most of us have. You don't want to be in rest mode 24/7, right? Because then you would never get anything done. You would never get to pursue things you're passionate about or create or, do work that you're good at. You would never get to see the fruits of your labor. You don't want to be in reflection all of the time because then you never get to move forward. And you don't want to be in healing all of the time because then you're just constantly reflecting on the past. When you're done healing, there's a time to turn around and move forward with what you've done. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what the seasons are, how to recognize them, what to do in those seasons, and how to know if you're out of sync and you're in one season for too long and therefore not able to, move on and do the things you need to do. So, for the sake of this episode, I'm going to break the different kind of energy cycles into 4 different categories because I just feel like this is an easy way to kind of define the different types of energy you may be in. There's certainly other energies that you may find yourself in that aren't quite defined by what I'm going to give, but I feel like this is just going to be a simple way to break it down and make it easy for you to remember. The 4 energy seasons that I'm going to focus on are rest, work, positivity, and healing. Rest being in the winter, work being in the spring, positivity being in the summer, and healing being in the fall. And it doesn't mean that you only experience these energies in those seasons, but more so the energy of the seasons is going to reflect the energy of rest, work, positivity, and healing, just to help your brain sort of bring those ideas together. So like I mentioned, I'm really going to tie the different energies to the natural seasons of the year because 1, it's an easy way to remember it, and 2, I feel like these tend to be the common types of energy that you may find yourself in. Right now we're in winter, for example, right? It's a very still period. It's a very restful, we're going in, we're not as social, we're not as energetic. Winter is a period of rest and recovery and stillness. And sort of like the new year, and you've probably heard it said in recent years, I feel like more people are becoming aware of this, but, typically we've been encouraged to set New Year's resolutions and things right in January, right in the beginning of the year. But that doesn't really reflect the natural energy. In the Roman calendar, the year starts in March, in the spring, which is a much more fruitful time to start a year, right? Because that aligns with the energy of starting something new. The flowers are just starting to bloom. You're really coming out of the gate. The energy is new. It's just starting to pick up speed and move forward and see growth. The Gregorian calendar, which is what we follow, starts the year in the dead of winter when everything is still really still and really quiet and there's no energy. So it really does not align very well with our natural cycle. I find it much more helpful to not try to focus too much on those forward moving energies in January. If you want to, of course you can, but to kind of see this period as more of a rest period. It's important to rest before we can have the energy and the forward motion to move into spring, right? So I'm considering the period of rest, winter, as season 1, right? We're resting before we move forward. It's a good time to be still. Obviously, after rest comes spring, and this is really where we really start to pick up pace, where the sun is shining, we're getting our energy back, we're just feeling more positive in general, we're making plans, maybe it's spring break, right? We're starting to come back to life, and this is a really good time to kind of start to put plans in motion, start to make those lists, to make those goals, to start revving up and sort of starting to pursue, maybe a passion project or focus on your relationships or focus on things you want to be working on. This is the time to cast the net for your dreams or your goals, your personal aspirations. This is when you're going to have a lot of natural creative energy. Of course, you can have creative energy all year long, but this is kind of naturally the energy flow. After spring, of course, is summer, and summer is just such a positive time for so many people. I honestly have a hard time with summer because it's so hot. I'm so sensitive to that I'm so ready to be done with summer. But summer, we have the sun, right? And we have warmth, and we have a lot of times we're maybe taking a trip or going on a vacation or we're swimming or we're going to the beach or whatever it is. Summer is a time of kind of getting to experience the height of what we planned in the spring, right? Summer is the culmination of all of those things. And so you're kind of at the tippy top of getting to experience that heightened energy in summer. But it's also a time to just kind of sit in the goodness, in the positivity. So summer, both the season and just for the sake of the type of energy this would be, which would be like a positive, joyful energy, right? This is when you're feeling good, when you're feeling like everything's kind of aligned. Again, it doesn't mean that everything is aligned in the summer, but it means generally the energy that is reflective of summer is the energy of this type of season. You're feeling positive. You're feeling gratitude. It's a good time to kind of sit in the joy and just reflect on what is going well. It's a good time to just, again, be creative and connect with people. And then the energy of fall, which is where things start to slow down again. It's like we're kind of coming off of this high, but you can only be there for so long before that high. It takes a lot of energy. You're kind of at the top of the roller coaster in summer, but at some point it has to come down. And so fall is just our time where we slow down, we start to introspect a little bit more, we're going a little bit more inside, it's a little bit cozier, a little bit slower. We're not at a full stop yet, but it's a season of healing. Like fall is a good time to be like, okay, I made plans, I got the ball rolling, I did all these things, and now through those experiences, I'm gonna pause and reflect on, what needs healing? What needs attention? What needs me to focus on it so that I can make something better? It's a time to kind of look at what wounds you might have picked up or received through spring and summer and start to look at healing those things. Okay, so that was rest, work, positivity, and healing as the 4 seasons. So how do you know what season you're in? Because I want to note, you could go through these different energies of rest, work, positivity, or healing. You could go through those different energies within a couple of hours, or you could move within those energies for a few months. Like you could be in rest mode for 2 months straight and then go into work mode. Or you could be in healing mode for a week and then you jump back to work. And then it doesn't have to go in order either. We jump in and out of these energies all of the time. It doesn't matter what order you're going in, and it doesn't matter how long you're in each season. What matters is that you recognize the signs of needing to move into a certain season so that you know when to rest, you know when to work, you know when to reflect, and so on. And that really comes down to paying attention to physical cues, emotional cues, and intuitive cues. Knowing your body, knowing your mind, and paying attention to your intuition are the keys to switching seasons at the right time. Because if you're really feeling a lot of resistance in your life, if you're feeling a lot of negativity, if you're feeling a lot of sadness, if you're having a lot of mental health issues, those are all a pretty good indicator that you're in the wrong season or that you've been resisting moving into a season that you're supposed to be in. Okay, so let's take energy levels, for example. Take note of your energy. Notice if you feel energized and driven and passionate. One, if you're a female, this likely has to do with your menstrual cycle, the phase of your menstrual cycle that you're in, right? We naturally have weeks that we feel more energized and driven, and then we naturally have weeks where we feel more restful. But you could also look at this as an entire month. For the entire month of January, regardless of my menstrual cycle, I have felt very introspective, very restful. Like this has definitely been a pause period for me, which I think is common in January. This has been a period where I'm just kind of reflecting. I'm taking notes about what I want to do this year, but I'm not in like full-blown creative work mode. I'm just thinking. I'm kind of planning, I'm plotting, but I'm introspective. I've spent a lot of time being cozy and just thinking about what's coming next. I've really honored the days when my body just feels exhausted, and instead of feeling guilty about not being productive or feeling like I'm being a lazy bum, I'm really just trying to honor those and be like, you know what? Okay, my body needs a lot of rest today. I'm going to honor that, and I can still be productive within my mind, but I'm not going to force my body to go and do things that it doesn't want to do, and it's clearly telling me not to do. Now, sometimes we don't have a lot of flexibility with that, depending on, where you do work. If you work outside of the home, what that looks like. Do you have to work in an office? Then obviously you don't necessarily have that option. But just doing the best with what you have, like maybe when you get home from work, maybe we skip the gym that day and you just go home and you just rest and you honor it. Eat some soup, drink some tea. Really try to honor what your body is telling you, just to the best of your ability. If you resist that feeling of knowing that your body needs to rest, maybe it's just getting more sleep or whatever it is. If you try to stay in a productive work mode, you're going to burn out. And that's your body telling you, hey, you have not honored the season that we're trying to tell you need to move into. You're spending too long in the work season. We need you to move into rest or move into healing. Okay. Or the opposite of that would be noticing, when you feel energized, like maybe you've been in a slump, you've been in a rut, but then you have a day when your energy is perked up and you have a little bit more creative energy, but maybe you decide to ignore it because you just don't feel like dealing with stuff, or maybe you're doom scrolling and you're just kind of letting the creative energy pass you by. Really try to take advantage. When you feel that creative energy coming in, or you have an idea that you feel passionate about, take the leap, seize the energy and utilize it and go after it. Don't ignore it and let it pass you by, because then before you know it, you'll be in another rest season again and you didn't harness the energy when it was available. And then you're wondering, well, gosh, I've been feeling like this forever, and I've been in this rest period for so long. When am I going to have that creative energy back? But sometimes it's possible that when the creative energy came, you weren't giving yourself over to it. You weren't really paying attention. You weren't tuning in. You were distracted with other things. And that energy, that heightened energy came and went. Really try to tune in to when that energy comes, because it always comes around. You're always on this clock-like cycle of these energies coming and going. And especially in terms of manifestation, or when you're trying to bring something into your life, when you're trying to create something new or follow new passions and new ideas, the best way to manifest something is to follow your highest excitement. When you are following and pursuing the energy, when it's naturally coming to you, when it's naturally coming out of you, that is the easiest way to manifest something, because you don't have to force it. You don't have to overthink it. You're just following your passion in the moment. And that is manifestation's easiest pathway. Okay, so energy levels are a huge cue to knowing what season you're in. Another way to know what season you're in is obviously your emotional state. So when you are feeling good, when you're feeling feelings of joy, even if it's just a moment, even if it's just, you're grabbing a cup of coffee out, or you're out going shopping for a new dress, or any little tiny moment that brings you joy, harness that, right? Grab onto that energy, that feeling of gratitude and joy. Just anytime you notice, I feel really good right now, take a moment. That is your summer season. Even if it's just a few minutes, take that summer season, take a moment to reflect on it and to go, I just feel really grateful right now. I'm just going to ride this roller coaster of joyful feelings until it starts to fade. I just want to be here with it. I just want to harness this joyful energy. And for you and I, for both of our sakes, I hope that season is months long. But if you're going through a hard time in your life and it's just a few minutes, or it's just an hour, or it's just a day, again, don't let it pass you by. Harness the energy of joy and hold on to it for a moment, and take time to be like, I'm so grateful for this moment, and take a moment to soak it up. And again, the more that you kind of harness that energy of joy, that you pay attention to it, that you turn and put your focus on the emotion of joy and that high frequency of joy, that will bring more of that into your life. The more that you focus on the joyful moments that you have, the more you will pull in more of those moments from the universe. You will align yourself more with joyful moments if you're focusing on them. And of course, there's still seasons for healing and rest and reflecting on maybe not so positive emotions. But when you find the joy, grab onto it and focus on it. Because even if it's just a few minutes, that's how you know what, joy has showed up for me. I'm going to be in this summer season for a minute. Okay, I'm going to pay attention to it. Of course, there's always the other feelings. If you feel sadness, or if you've been through something really hard and you need to go through some healing, honor those emotions just as much, because you cannot heal. Every emotion that you have needs to be seen, needs to be honored. I know so many people have the habit of trying to push away the sadness, or push down the anger, or get rid of these feelings that don't feel good. But in doing that, all you're doing is you're playing whack-a-mole, right? You're just kind of pushing it away. It's always going to come back up. And it's probably going to come back up at a really inopportune time when you're trying to move on. You cannot move on from these emotions if you have not addressed them, if you haven't recognized them, if you haven't processed them. So if you find yourself with these difficult feelings of sadness or anger or guilt or shame or whatever it is, the way that you process those emotions is just by paying attention to them. Look at them in the eye, know where they came from. Think about why you're feeling the way you are, getting to the root of the issue and honor it. And it doesn't mean that you should feel shameful or you should feel angry or you should feel sad. It just means recognizing the emotion. I have this emotion. This is why I have this emotion. I understand why I have this emotion. I'm honoring the fact that this emotion is popping up for me and that it's trying to communicate something to me. And it might take a week or it might take years, but eventually, honoring your emotions by looking at them and giving them the attention that they are needing will help you move those negative emotions out. So don't ever push those feelings away. The more you push negative emotions away, the stronger they will be when they come back. It's so important. If you feel those popping up, you need to think to yourself, okay, I sense these emotions coming up. Again, whether it's something small or whether it's something really big, you have to recognize that there needs to be some sort of healing period to say, okay, I see these emotions. I'm noting that. I'm going to go into a season of healing and pay attention to these emotions so that I can process them and move past them and move on to my next season. And that part is obviously a lot of work. You know, you may want to journal, you may want to talk to a therapist or somebody close to you. Maybe you need to process those things verbally. There's lots of different ways that you can go about healing that I think is different for each person. But healing is the most rewarding work that you can possibly do. Healing is lesson learning, right? Healing is karma. Healing is the things that we need to deal with to move on to the next phase of our life. You'll never get to the most abundant, most prosperous time of your life if you haven't done your healing. That is something that all of us, I believe personally, have to deal with. When we come here to learn lessons and to move through our lives and the things that we've planned, you cannot move to the next step until you deal with the healing the emotions from the things that you've been through thus far. You cannot skip that part. That is how you upgrade to the next level of your life and how you get the universe to basically unlock the next level of abundance for you. Okay, so that's emotions. Let's talk about external cues of how you know what season you're in or what season you need to be in. Pay attention to the life events or the challenges around you. So say you are going through a high season of your life. Maybe you just graduated college. Maybe you just got a brand new job that you're really excited about. Maybe you just got married. These are really big, exciting things. Now, there's hard things that come with all of that, right? Say you just have a baby. That is a very joyful and yet also very difficult thing to go through. It's a huge life transition. So not every high is going to be free of lows, right? But don't forget to pause on the high periods. When you get a new job, instead of just diving straight into work and going into work mode and putting your head down, don't forget to celebrate. Don't forget to be proud of yourself, to take a moment and pause and again, seize the joyfulness, seize the joyful energy and go, oh, I'm really proud of myself. I want to celebrate myself for a moment. And I just want to take a moment to be proud of all the work that I did to get here. You know, if you just got married or, you know, you have some sort of relational high, just stop to be grateful and think, I'm just so grateful for this person in my life. I'm just so grateful, you know, all of the hard relationships, all of the hard work and healing that I did to get here. And now look at where I get to be. Look at how joyful I'm feeling now. You know, take a moment to really pause and sink into that energy because again, focusing on that positivity will breed more positivity. But that would be an external cue. It's just paying attention to your life events. If you went through something hard, if you went through a separation or you lost someone in your life, don't try to just brush over that period of grief and healing and shove it under the rug because again, it will come back. And so basically, even if you're not necessarily paying attention to the emotional cues, pay attention to what's going on in your life. Think back and reflect what has happened in the last year of your life that you need to reflect on or feel gratitude for or heal from. Think about those big life transitions because there might be something that happened that you didn't really take the time to give your attention to, whether positive or negative. And then the last thing is physical signs. So again, things like burnout. Burnout is your physical sign. You're feeling exhausted, but you haven't taken the time to rest. Or maybe you're feeling really antsy. You're feeling really just like restless. Maybe that is your cue of, hey, we've been in this rest mode for a while and we've done some healing. And now we need to put this energy somewhere. We need to take all of this restless energy and focus it into something so that we can create. We're feeling really like we have all this energy, but it's not harnessed into anything. So if you're feeling really restless, that might be your sign to harness that energy and pour it into something you're passionate about. Or again, if you're feeling feelings pop up that you're not currently dealing with, like, oh, I'm feeling really sad, but I don't really know why. I'm not dealing with anything really sad right now. I'm just struggling with depression. I'm just struggling with feelings of sadness. There could be lots of reasons, so I don't want to make any assumptions. But it's possible that you brushed over some healing that you didn't do, that you should have done. Maybe you got out of a relationship and then you tried to just move on without really processing and grieving it. And so you're going to have to now backtrack and go back to that and move through those emotions so that you can let go of that energy that's stuck in your body and move on to the next season. So those are all cues that you're out of sync, that you're not in alignment. Your emotions are your body's way of telling you that you're out of alignment. So any sort of emotion that doesn't feel good is trying to tell you that you're out of alignment and it may be time to move into a different season, right? So the burnout, the chronic fatigue, the mental illnesses, the relationships that are just not working and you're hitting a wall. Whether you stay in those types of relationships or not, whether it's a season or it's a sign to part ways, it's always a signal that something needs to change, right? Even if it's not external, even if it's just internally, you need to move into a different season, your body will always give you clues. Okay, and lastly, I just want to touch on, okay, what do you do in those seasons? We talked about healing, but we talked about this a little bit, but I'm just going to give you some more ideas of when you recognize that you're in a season. Like I'm recognizing right now that personally I'm in a season of rest, but I'm getting really close to my spring season. I'm getting really close to a season of work. Again, it doesn't have to go in order. It can go in any order, but personally I know that I'm gearing up for a period of work and creativity and passion and movement, but I'm not quite there yet. So one tip that I have is if you really want to honor each season, which I would recommend doing because I really feel like this is the healthiest way for you to kind of capitalize on each season of your life without having to backtrack, is keep a calendar or take a calendar that you already have and note what season you're currently in, or maybe what season you need to be in if you're not quite there. So that way, if you're kind of keeping a season of like, oh, all of January I've been in rest, then you can look back and see, oh, I noticed I haven't had this type of period. I haven't been in a season of healing for a long time. I haven't been in a season of rest for a long time. I haven't been in a season of reflection for a long time. It will help you just notice if you're missing out on a certain season that you need to honor. Maybe you haven't paused to feel joy or gratitude in a long time. Just kind of noting what you need to pay attention to if there's any sort of gaps, that I think is really helpful. For healing, I know we talked about, moving through the emotions, honoring the emotions, but also journaling, therapy, meditation, gentle movement. So all of these emotions that we're talking about can all get stuck in the body, like stagnant. And anytime you have a buildup of energy, it blocks the energy from moving freely throughout your body, So like if you hear people talk about certain chakras that are blocked, that's that energy getting stopped and stuck in a certain place because there's something that's not being dealt with. There's some season that's not being honored. There's emotions that aren't being paid attention to, and that creates those blocks. So movement, just moving your body, whether it's walking, whether it's yoga, or whatever type of movement you feel comfortable doing, moving your body also helps physically unblock that energy. It doesn't take the place of needing to honor certain emotions, but it does help just like physically get the energy moving. And physically, if you're moving your body and the energy starts to want to flow, that will affect your mental state as well. Like say you haven't dealt with some emotions in a while and there's really stagnant energy in your body. Well, say then you're working out, you're walking, you're running, you're lifting weights, whatever it is. when the energy starts flowing throughout your body, that will it's kind of like the energy will start kind of tapping, right? The energy will start kind of pushing against the blockage, which will kind of point your mental energy to that blockage. Like basically the physical movement will help kind of awaken your awareness to what needs to be moved, if that makes sense, right? So the body and the mind work together. So your mind has a huge impact on your body. Your emotions can, I'm sure but quite literally cause disease or heal based on your mind, your mental state, your overall energy. Well, the reverse is also true. You moving your body and moving the energy can help your mind as well. So it goes both ways. These are two systems that work together. So moving your body can also help unblock that energy. You'll still have to deal with the mental parts of it because the systems work together, but it will help get the energy flowing. Okay, so that's healing for positivity, just practicing gratitude, spending time in nature, celebrating. So celebrating you, celebrating other people, celebrating situations, just again, harnessing that positivity. Journaling also really works well for this as well. For work, knowing that you're in a season of work and pursuing things, doing things like goal setting, time blocking to make sure that you are giving over however much time to whatever it is that you're working on, avoiding distractions, and just really pouring that creative energy into creating something, right? As human beings, one of our greatest gifts is this ability to create and be creative. So whatever it is that you are working on or pursuing, and it doesn't have to be like quote unquote work related. It could be a relationship. It could be a hobby. It can be anything. But whatever it is that you're wanting to pour that energy into, and that's with that spring type energy, writing it down, knowing what you're working towards and taking action towards that are really the kind of activities to do with that energy. And then for rest, obviously sleep, resting your mind as well as your body, meditation, relaxation, taking a break from screens, like maybe doing a digital detox, are all some ways to really honor that rest time. Okay, so again, all of these work together. It's like the seasons of the year. You can't appreciate and understand the true joy of summer if winter never came. You would never learn to love the flowers blooming if you didn't see them die, right? Every single one of these seasons is really important. So just paying attention to what season you're in, what season maybe you need to be in next, what seasons you have tried to skip over and you need to go back and honor. Recognizing when it's time to push through and when it's time to pause is a vital part of a life you can prosper in. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here. Again, if you have not left a review for the podcast, it means so much to me. I wish I could send you all a gift card, but I'm not allowed to do that, or I would. But if you would just leave a review, that would mean a lot to me. Again, you can always email me at daremetoprosper@gmail.com if you have any sort of questions or requests. I've got a really exciting episode coming up next week where I'm going to have my sister on, so definitely make sure you tune in for that, and I will see you next time on Dare Me to Prosper.